Hello friends, welcome back to Bhavyam Classes. So friends, in today's class, we'll try to cover the alternative centers of power. First, we'll look what we are going to cover in this chapter. So first, in there are in the last chapter, we saw that there were a lot of challenges before the USA that became the sole superpower after the decline of USSR in 1991. But in recent times, we see a lot of challenges and a lot of countries and organizations are coming before as a challenge before USA. So first in this class, we'll look what are the organizations that are challenges or that are emerging as an alternative centers of power. So in organizations, we'll see European Union. We'll see how European Union has been challenging the USA's superpower and why European Union is an alternative center of power that will look. Apart from that, we'll also look ASEAN. We'll look how the ASEAN has emerged as an alternative center of power. We'll also look BRICS and Shark. So in today's class, we'll cover only this. In the next class, we'll cover the nations. What are the nations that has become a challenge before USA or that has emerged as an alternative centers of power? In nations, we'll look China, India, Japan, South Korea, Israel, and Russia. We'll also look since China is our neighbor and China is emerging and it is said that China is the next superpower. So it becomes important to look into the India's relationship with China and how India's relationship has been changing since 1950 or we can say since independence. So we'll look into that. So let us start by looking into the issues with European Union and how European Union came into existence and why is it called an alternative center of power. So first, European Union. So in international politics, in political science, all everything in today's time, everything goes back to World War II. All the IR has been saved by the World War II. So EU was also the result of Europe, World War II. Since after the World War II, the economy of EU was destroyed because a lot of warfare, lot of battles took place in only in Europe. So that's why the economy of the Europe was destroyed. And for the economic restructuring of European Union, USA came with a plan that was known as Marshall Plan. It was basically Marshall Plan was help help EU to restructure its economy. So Marshall Plan emerged just after the World War II, exactly in 1948. So and for that purpose to implement the economic reform to restructure the economy of European Union, the Organization for European Economic Cooperation in 1948 was established. It was established to restructure to suggest what can we do, what how money should be spent, how financial resources should be managed to restructure or to recover to recover recover the economy of EU. It was established for that purpose only. But although all that started with an economic idea, that it was all the ideas were to restructure the economy of European Union, but later it became a political entity, fiscal entity, even monetary entity. Later it became, we will see how that became, but just keep in mind that it all started with an economic restructuring of Europe that later emerged as a political entity. So for after Marshall Plan, Organization for European Economic Cooperation and the Council of Europe was also established in 1949. The council was basically all the European nations came together and they were part of the council. They were part of the council to discuss the issues what was there with the European countries. But the European Union came after a lot of treaties. A lot of treaties. The European Union that we see today came into existence after a lot of treaties were signed. A lot of various treaties were signed. So first treaty, the Treaty of Paris, Paris was signed in 1951. Treaty of Paris in 1951 signed. Why it was signed? It was signed to establish European coal and steel community. What is the role of European coal and steel community? It was to, because coal and steel is an important part of economy, they give boost, they are the major part of the economy. That's why the council was established to, through the Treaty of Paris, to uh, to to contribute in the economy, the to give direction the coal and steel industry to become a larger part of to contribute in the economy. So that was the first treaty that was signed in 1951. After that, we saw the treaties of Rome in 1957 was signed, and European Atomic Energy Community and European Economic Community was established. So European Economic Community. So that's what I was saying, that basically it emerged as an economic entity, as an economic community, but later it became a economic, political, and monetary, and even a supranational entity. So that's how it started with the EU. But after that, one of the most important treaty was signed, that was the Schengen Agreement in 1985. So Schengen Agreement in 1985 was signed, and what was for that? The treaty was signed for the to abolish the border control among the EU members. What is the meaning of the border control? So border control was abolished. Like if you are traveling to Pakistan or Bangladesh, even to not Nepal, but even Pakistan and Bangladesh, so you need visa, you need passport visa, etc. So by abolishing the border control, now you can roam freely. If you are traveling to European Union, if you have passport of one country, you can travel all over the Europe, all the countries of the Europe. Like if your passport of Germany, you can travel France, you can travel Austria, you can travel any country that is part of European Union. So that was the whole idea, because if you have border control, then you can't establish a supranational entity. So that was the purpose behind signing the agreement, uh, behind signing Schengen Agreement. One of the one important question for exam point of view. This is important because recently in 2023, Croatia became the latest member of Schengen Agreement. So Schengen Agreement, latest Croatia signed Schengen Agreement. So that is important from your exam point of view. So we saw that the economic community was established, coal and steel community was established, border controls were abolished, but till now European Union has not came into existence. It only came into existence after signing the Treaty of Maastricht. This is important. This is also important from your exam point of view. Treaty of Maastricht, 1992. So when Treaty of Maastricht was signed in 1992, European Union formally came into existence. So we saw in 1992, Treaty of Maastricht was signed and European Union now came into being. But just after that, in 1993, single market was also created, and till 2009, we see that a lot of almost to 28 countries now had become the part of European Union. So but in 2009, Lisbon Treaty was also signed. This also came into being. But one important development took place in 2012 when EU was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Why it was awarded Nobel Peace Prize? Because it was said that because of EU, a lot of border dispute, a lot of war, lot of battles has been stopped, because Europe has always been the center of battles. There was a lot of battles, always battles were fought in Europe, and EU has played a significant role in reducing those battles. So that's why the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to EU. So we see. So second important question related to Schengen Agreement and to Croatia, because Croatia is also the latest member that has joined EU. So in 2013, Croatia became the 28th member of EU. So just keep in mind, latest member of EU, Croatia, latest member to sign Schengen Agreement, Croatia. So these both are important. In 2013, Croatia became the member of EU, and in 2023, Croatia signed this Schengen Agreement that abolishes the border control among the EU members. But although we see that countries want to become the part of EU, but there is a one development in Britain, that there is a movement in Britain that people don't want to be part of EU, because they think that because of EU we are not growing, because we have to contribute a lot of financial resources to EU, and our that's why our financial resources are degrading and we are become poorer. That's the idea that the people of Britain was thinking, and for that purpose even the various parties like conservative parties, and they were the party that belong to the conservative idea, they were saying that we should not be part of EU. So in 2016 a referendum was conducted. So what did that referendum do? What is the meaning of referendum? That if you have certain issues, certain policies, that you go before the people and ask for them to vote for that policy. That is the meaning of referendum. The people participate in deciding whether the policy is wrong or right, and on the basis of majority votes we decide whether we should follow that policy or not. So a referendum was done in Britain in 2016, and 51.9% voters decided that Britain should exit from the EU, and the process was known as Brexit. So this was Brexit. Since in 2016 the referendum took place in Britain, but it is not easy. You just did the referendum and now you are out of EU. But it took a lot of year, a lot of process has to be followed to exit from the EU. So in officially in 31st January 2020, Britain is out of EU. So now Britain is not part of EU. That's the question. You could be asked that what is the meaning of Brexit? You could be asked, and when the referendum was conducted in Britain 2016, and one of the most important question, is Britain part of EU? No, now Britain is not part of EU. And another question could be asked then, that when Britain when Britain when did Britain officially out of EU? So it was 31st January 2020. So that was all about the timeline of EU, or how EU came into being, what were the major treaties that were signed between European countries. Now one of the most important question you should ask, that who are the important countries that are part of European Union. So we'll come to that. One one important thing is left here, that although they started with the economic idea, economic restructuring, but with the establishment of European Parliament, it took the political angle. The political angle now has came into being in the process of becoming EU, in the formation of EU. And when did the first election came, or election happened, regarding European Parliament? So in 1979, first direct election to the European Parliament took place, because we all know the Parliament means the people came together, people come together and talk about the various issues. So that's was the idea about European Parliament. So now, what are the countries that are part of European Union? So important countries that are part of European Union. This is Britain. This is not. It is not part of European Union now. So you should cut that. Ireland is part of European Union. Important. We will talk about only important countries. France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, and this is Croatia. This is Croatia. Slovenia is around Croatia, Slovenia and Hungary. It shares border with uh, Slovenia and Hungary. So Croatia is. I talked about one important fact now. Recently, it has signed Schengen agreement. That's why it is important for your exam point of view also. Then Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg. Switzerland is not part of you. A lot of students are confused with the name of Switzerland, and whether Switzerland is part of EU or not. So this is Switzerland, if you can see the map. So but Switzerland is not part of EU. So just keep that thing also in mind. Now Poland, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. We also know that they were all part of USSR. At a point of time they were part of USSR. So now they are part of EU. Slovenia, Czech Republic, Germany, Luxembourg. This is Luxembourg, Austria, Slovenia, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, and this is Cyprus and even Malta. So these were the important countries that are part of European Union. So basically there are 27 countries now. 28 earlier, they were 28. After Brexit, now they have become 20 27 countries. So now we will look what is the idea, or what is the feature of European Union. So one important feature is that they have common foreign policy. They have common foreign policy. That is important, because they will, if they have to talk about certain things, they have to deal with certain issues, they all will come together and talk about the issue, and they will share some aspects of their foreign policy with each other, and they will even we can say they will even follow the certain principle or certain common ideas of foreign policy. But one important thing is that, but all the countries, it doesn't mean that they are forced, the decisions are forcible. That doesn't mean that they are forced to follow that common foreign policy. They are independent. They can follow, or they cannot follow. They have all the authority to follow or not to follow. One incident we see during the Iraq war. European Union, EU, does not approve that war, and it says that will not participate in the war with the USA. But so Britain, Britain followed its independent foreign policy and go for the war, although European Union did not approve that. So that's that so all I'm trying to say here, that common foreign policy doesn't mean that they are necessarily to be followed by all the European countries. Now another point is that they also have the common security policies, that they will come together to secure each other's interest, and they will also come together to secure the European Union. So they have the common security policy, and they also cooperate on justice and home affairs. So how do they cooperate on justice? Like if a crime, like in a crime in France, a crime in France has happened, but now the criminal has fled to Germany. So they now Germany have to share information about that criminal. So that's how they cooperate on justice and home affair. Like if they don't have this policy, like they don't have the idea of cooperation on justice, then France do not need to share the information of that criminal. So that's how they cooperate on justice and home affair. Last but not the least, this is the last but not the least, there are, since you can add many as point as you know or as you read about European Union. So, and this is the most important thing that uh, you can say for the unification or unification of European Union or unification of the European countries for the sake of perpetuation, or we can say continuation of EU. So this is the creation of a single currency. Now they have the single monetary policy also. They all have to follow, or they all have to adopt one currency, that is euro. So euro is the currency of EU. So that was all about European Union. Now, why should EU be considered as an alternative centers of power? So as we know that since EU is one of the center of powerful center of economy, it is the second largest economy in the world. It has also a lot of technologies are a lot of technologies is part of the economy, and you can say the technology is part of even daily life of the European people. So that's why the economic influence has been rising, and the economic influence of European Union has been rising all over the world. So it is the second largest economy in the world. It it is a financial hub, like London is the financial hub of the even the world. Now recently New York has become the financial hub of the world, but at one time London was the financial hub of the world, and now it has been influencing the world through its financial power. Apart from that, the in WTO World Trade Organization, EU is one of the largest contributor, and the data of WTO says even in the context of trade, it has surpassed the European United States of America. So that was the economic influence of EU. But since now the Britain is out of EU, so some says that now the economic influence of EU has been deteriorating. But we can't say, because Britain was one of the largest contributor to the European Unions. It was giving a lot of finance. Even the London is in Britain. So that's how we can say, in some sense, after Brexit, the economic influence is deteriorating. But a major country like France, like Germany, like Italy, Portugal, Spain, they are now even part of the EU. So in some sense, the economic influence has has come down, but not in absolute. We can't say that in an absolute. After Britain, now economy of EU has collapsed. So we can't say that. In the context of military influence, it EU has one of the largest armies in the world. Since the armies of 27 countries come together, 27 country the armies of 27 countries has come together. So that means it has a large army. Even it has France. We all know France has nuclear weapon. France has nuclear weapon. Before that, before Brexit, Britain was when Britain was part of EU, then Britain and France, two countries have the nuclear weapons. So you can think how military powerful EU is. So that's how military influence, we can see the military influence of EU in the context of alternative center of power. Apart from that, we also see the political and diplomatic influence of EU. Since France is permanent member of EU, so it has some says in, sorry, not EU. It is a part of P5. P5. It has veto power, so we can say it has some say in international issues, on the international issues, like even we can say, if you talk about any of the topic, so if France veto that on that issue, then that issue cannot be go forward. So that's how we can say the political and diplomatic influence of EU can also be seen in even in UN. UN. How can we see the diplomatic influence? So European Union countries like France, like Germany, they have a great influence on and Asian and African countries. So they major allies of European countries are there in Africa and Asia. So that's why we can say that EU it is a alternative centers of power. It has the challenge. It has the capacity to challenge the unipolarity of, or the it has the capacity to challenge USA. So that's how EU is an alternative centers of power. Now we'll look our second organization that can be the alternative center of power, that is ASEAN. So first you should ask that what is the full form of ASEAN. So Association of Southeast Asian Nation. Now what are the countries that are part of ASEAN? First we will look. So Myanmar, it shares border with India. Laos, Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, Philippines, and Indonesia. These countries are part of Southeast ASEAN. They are part of ASEAN. You should ask, why are they called Southeast Asia? So we all know this is India, and in the last class I think we saw that in not in the last class but in the next class we will see India is a part of South Asia. So India is part of South Asia, and if this is Asia, this is South Asia, and these countries are here. These ASEAN countries are here, so that's why they are called Southeast Asian countries. So just try to remember the name of these ASEAN countries, because they are important for your exam point of view and for your general knowledge as well. So now we look how ASEAN came into being or came into existence. So it all started with Bangkok Declaration that was signed by the 5 countries in 1967. But first, one basic question is that why ASEAN was established? What was the reason for establishing ASEAN? So major reason was the economic restructuring. So since we all know that just after the World War II, there was an era of Cold War. But during the Cold War, these ASEAN countries were part of NAM, but they didn't get any benefit from NAM non-alignment movement. But they didn't get any benefit from NAM. So even and they were also not part of any of the alliance, Western Alliance or Eastern Alliance, NATO or Warsaw Pact. So they were not part of any of the alliance, any of the bloc. So they thought for themselves that we should establish our own community, we should take power in our own hand to develop our economy, because these this region was one of the we can say the poverty, hunger, malnutrition, malnutrition. These were the issues that were there in ASEAN countries. So it was important for them to come together and to structure their economy. So that's why in 1967 Bangkok Declaration was signed between the five countries. Who were the five countries? They were Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. They were the founding member. These five were the founding member, and later Brunei, Darussalam, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia became the part of ASEAN, became the member of ASEAN. So that was the whole idea about establishing the background of establishment of ASEAN. But if certain organization are being developed or is being developed, then there are some objectives behind that organization. So what are the objectives behind establishing the ASEAN country? So it was first the economic growth. Growth was perceived that we should grow economically. That economic growth is the major concern of our region, of our of ASEAN. So that was the main objective behind establishing ASEAN. Second was the social progress, since a lot of ethnic diversity, a lot of religion is a part of this region. So that's why, and if we don't solve these issues, these religious issues, ethnic conflict, then we can't socially progress. So social progress also mean the well-being of the people. So well-being of the people was perceived, and it was the main objective of ASEAN. Cultural development, we all know Southeast Asia has also one of the richest culture in the world. So cultural development was also perceived, and to promote regional peace and stability. Since if you look at the map, Malaysia shares border with Indonesia, even Brunei, and this is Philippines. Philippines share water boundary with Malaysia and Indonesia, and a lot of countries in this region like Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Myanmar, they also share border. So to establish peace and stability, it was important to solve the border dispute. So to solve border dispute was the main objective, and to establish peace and stability. And they also collaborated on the common interest. So common interest, like we can say the terrorism, is one of the major issues in the world now. So they will collaborate, they will share information with each other to solve the issue. Now these objectives were called the ASEAN way. These objectives are called because ASEAN is an unique organization, because it does not aim to establish supranational body like EU, but it has only one objective, that we have to grow economically, we have to live in peace, we have to stabilize the region. We don't want that there should be conflict in the region. So that is the main objective of ASEAN. They didn't mean, and they even don't mean to establish a common currency, common foreign policy, common security policy. So they don't mean that, but they are cooperating on certain issues to solve the conflict in the region. So for that purpose, if you look, Vision 2020, it was perceived in 1993, and they say that till 2020 we will solve all the issues, all the border issues with each other, with the nation. Since we have a close borders between we see a close border between the nation, so that is important to solve the conflict. Like between Malaysia and Indonesia, we see even today they have the border issue, but they are trying to solve that issue. So Vision 2020 was for that purpose. And also in 2003, ASEAN community was established. Three community was, it has three pillars. These are called the pillars. So ASEAN community was established. Three pillars of ASEAN community were established in 2003 to deal with the issues, to solve the lot of issues, and to grow economically. So first, the ASEAN security community. Since security can't be maintained if you have border dispute, so it was developed to avoid border dispute between the countries. Then ASEAN economic community. Simple, it has two objectives: to create the common market, like the common market means free flow of free flow of goods, capital, and labor. So FTA is also mean the free flow of goods, capital, and labor. So to create the common market, that's the free flow of goods can be there in the region. And also FTA with the other countries. FTA with the other countries means like China and USA. They are persuading ASEAN to sign the FTA. Even in recent, a treaty was signed between an agreement was signed between the ASEAN nation to go beyond this and to establish a common market, and the free flow of good was to maintain. It was named comprehensive economic agreement. It was said the comprehensive economic agreement was signed between the ASEAN nation. Last, third pillar is that ASEAN socio-cultural community. That means socio-cultural means the social well-being and cultural integration of the region was to be done through this pillar, through this uh, community, and it will ultimately promote the well-being of the people, because well-being of the people is important. Well-being means to eradicate poverty, to eradicate hunger, and the people should be happy in the region, that they are part of the region. So that was the whole idea behind establishing the ASEAN community, the three pillars of ASEAN community. In Also, apart from the ASEAN community, in 1994 regional forum was also established, and it was done to solve the border issues, that carries out coordination of security and foreign policy, that we should coordinate foreign policy on the issues of foreign policy, on the issues of security, because security can only be maintained if there is a peace and there is no border dispute between the countries. So regional forum was also developed in 1994 to avoid the border dispute and to follow and to coordinate on the foreign policies. How did ASEAN is it is said that ASEAN is one of the most successful sorry group in the world, one of the most successful organization in the world, because we see through the examples ASEAN has mediated the end of Cambodian conflict, the East Timor crisis. There was conflict in the region, and they have successfully eradicated or end the conflict between these two regions are example, but there are a lot of regions. They are the least region that led they are the least one of the least issues. They are the minimum issue, we can say. They are the important issues. Apart from that, they have also solved a lot of issues in the ASEAN region. Now we'll look what is the India's relation with ASEAN. Since during the Cold War era, India was busy in dealing with USA and USSR, so it did not pay much attention to ASEAN. So India's foreign policy did not give much attention during Cold War era, and it led to the, we can say, the a distance between ASEAN countries and India. But recently India is now trying to persuade ASEAN countries, and now India is signing a lot of treaties, a lot of free trade agreement between the ASEAN countries. So now it has signed free trade agreement with Singapore. Now it is trying to sign free trade agreement with other countries of ASEAN. So that's how India is dealing with ASEAN. So now we look our next organization, that is SHARC, South Asia Association of Regional Cooperation. So when it was established in 1985. These are these facts are important for from an exam point of view. Where is the headquarter of SHARC? So it is there in Kathmandu, in Nepal. Who are the members of SHARC? So India, obviously, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and Afghanistan. So some people say that Myanmar is also part of South Asia. So Myanmar could be there. Sometimes Myanmar is considered as South Asia, but it is not the member of SHARC. So don't be confused here. Myanmar is a member of ASEAN, not the SHARC, not the SHARC. So now we look, since apart from the member countries, there are also observer countries. That means they will observe the issues what are being discussed in SHARC summit, but they don't have the voting right. That they will just sit there and talk about. They can give their opinion also, but they don't have the voting rights. So Australia, China, EU, Iran, Japan, Korea, that is South Korea, not North Korea, Mauritius, and Myanmar and USA. They are the observer countries. They don't have voting rights. So now what are the objectives behind establishing the SHARC, or what is the objective of SHARC? So it is to promote welfare of what? Welfare of people. How could you promote welfare of the people? By giving them food, by giving them clothes, by giving them house, and by eradicating poverty, by eradicating hunger, and social development of the people, cultural development of the people, social progress of the people. By all these methods you can promote the welfare of the people. Apart from that, this organization also aim to economic growth. Cultural development is also one of the objective of SHARC. To develop mutual trust, we see that there is a lot of trust deficit between this region, South Asian region. We'll see in the next class what is the meaning of South Asia, and what are the countries of South Asia, and what are the conflict of South Asia. There we see that a lot of mutual trust and lack of mutual trust and understanding is there in South Asian region. So in between India and Pakistan, between India and Bangladesh, between Pakistan, Afghanistan, between India and Sri Lanka, so there is a lot of trust deficit, and there is a lack of understanding between and that is the reason, that is the most important reason, that SHARC is unsuccessful. It is an unsuccessful organization. It is not successful. Even the a lot of countries are even boycotting the submit of SHARC. So if you see in recent, India has boycotted the meeting of SHARC when it was held in Pakistan, and Pakistan is boycotting SHARC because it said that India is dominating the SHARC. So this is unsuccessful, but it is important to understand that it has the potential to to grow the economy of the region, to increase the mutual trust between the region, to increase the understanding between the countries. Apart from that, collaboration and cooperation on common interest. Since terrorism is one of the issue that should be collaborated and cooperated by all these countries, but since one of the countries is sponsoring the terrorism, like Pakistan, all the terrorists has been taking shelter in Pakistan. So how can you collaborate and cooperate on the issue when one of the countries is sponsoring the act that is tagged as heinous? So this is the reason uh, behind the unsuccessful working of SHARC. But it doesn't mean that SHARC is not important. It doesn't mean that the region is not important, because 3% of the world area lies in lies in this area. 21% of the population, one out of five, one out of five people belong to this region only, Shark region only. So how could it not become an important region? And even 3.8% global uh, economy has been contributed by this region. So that was the whole idea about shark. But as I've already said that it is an unsuccessful organization. How is it unsuccessful? Because conflict between India and Pakistan. भारत के जो बाकी पड़ोसी देश हैं उन्हें लगता है कि इंडिया विल डोमिनेट, India is intending to dominate the region. So and also the insufficient fund, because nobody wants to contribute, no country of this region want to contribute, because they see that since the organization is unsuccessful, so it is not worthy to contribute financially. So insufficient fund is also a reason behind the unsuccessful or limitations of shark. Okay. Now we'll look our next organization, that is BRICS. So what is the meaning of BRICS? It's simple. B for Brazil, R for Russia, I for India, C for China, S for South Africa. So it's simple. So B for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So the idea of BRICS came into being in 2006. It was established in 2006 in Russia. But the idea was given by and the word was coined by Jim O'Neill in 2001. But it was not BRICS. S was later added in 2009 when South Africa became the member. So it was BRIC was because said that Jim O'Neill said that BRIC, like Brazil, Russia, India, and China, they are the developing countries and they have the potential to become the superpower of the world. They are an alternative centers of power. These four are an alternative centers of power according to Jim O'Neill, and they have even they contribute sufficiently in the economic development of the world. They are the largest economy in the world, one of the largest economy. Collectively these four are the largest economy. They have the potential to be the largest economy of the world. So that's why, and even they have the greatest population, like India and China alone, they contribute around 300 crore of people are only from out of 800 crore are only from China and India together. So that's how we can say that they are the most important region of these four, or later in 2009 these five are the one of the uh, most important regions in the world. So that's how BRICS came into being. So what is the idea behind, what is how BRICS functions? So it is a BRICS functions on the basis of annual summit is being held either in Brazil or Russia or India, China or South Africa, either of the countries. The summit is being held, but they are not formally organization because they don't have headquarters. So but they are important because the annual summit is being conducted. A lot of issues are being discussed between these nations, and even they help each other financially. We will look later that a bank has been also established by these five nations collectively, and that bank also help all these five nations, even all other countries of the world, financially for the infrastructure development, for the educational purpose, and even for the other kind of development. So these two are important for exam point of view. Like 11th conference was held in 2019 in Brazil. 12th conference was held in Russia in 2020. So these two, just try to remember these two facts. They could be asked in your examination. So now we'll look what is the objective behind establishing or coming together our annual summit of BRICS. Why BRICS was established and why these five countries came together to make an organization, not a formal organization, but it is an organization in the context that it discusses a lot of issues of international importance. So they are established to cooperate and distribute mutual economic benefit among its member. Like if one member has developed in certain issues, on certain issues, then they can help other nations to grow. So to cooperate on and distribute mutual economic benefit. Mutual economic benefit, that means to share the benefit of the economic development among its member. Next is non-interference in the internal policies of each nations, that you can't interfere in each other's internal matter. Like Kashmir is the internal matter of India, Russia or China or Brazil or South Africa can't interfere in the internal matter of India. And mutual equality, that means there is, among the five, there is no powerful nation among these five. So among these five, there is a mutual equality. That means if China, China is now becoming the superpower, that doesn't mean it 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 is superior to other four nations. So there is no powerful nation among these five. There is a mutual equality. It is the objective. It is the objective. But we see that China is a bully. It tries to bully its neighbors like India. Recently, you must have seen in the news that in Tamang region, China is trying to enter our country. So, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have the potential to solve the issues. They can solve the issue. However, for some regions they are not doing it, like China is doing for its own interest, etc. Now this is what I was talking about, that BRICS has now established a new development bank. It was established in 2014. New development bank, it was established by the BRICS nation. Its headquarters is in Shanghai. One of the important fact about the new development bank is that it was proposed by India at the fourth BRICS summit in 2012 that was held in Delhi, and in the fifth BRICS summit it was discussed, and in the sixth BRICS summit that was held in Fortaleza, Brazil in 2014, BRICS state signed the agreement on the new development bank. So now that's how new development bank came into being, came into existence. Even during COVID crisis, we see that new development bank helped the India and even South Africa and Russia. So this development bank is to give financial resources to the country that they need for the development of the region. Now we will look what are the countries that are part of this new development bank. So obviously Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, these are part of BRICS. And two other countries, Bangladesh and United States, UAE, they are also part of new development bank. They became member in 2021, and Egypt and Uruguay, they are the prospective member that in future they can be member of new development bank. So that was all about today's class. I hope you've understood what I am trying to convey here. So thank you. We'll meet in next class.